In today's documentary on dark bonds, we unravel a chilling tale of jealousy, manipulation, and betrayal that ended in an unspeakable tragedy. In this case, the love turned toxic, friendships fractured, and a single Halloween night set the stage for an unthinkable act. The truth behind these dark bonds will leave you questioning just how far someone will go when consumed by rage and revenge. On October 31st, 2021, a passerby stumbled upon a horrifying discovery in Salinas, California. Down a quiet hillside, hidden among the brush, lay what appeared to be the remains of a young woman, wrapped in a blanket. As the man drew closer, the scene grew even more disturbing. The body showed signs of recent harm, and traces of blood were visible. It was clear this was no accident. Without delay, he contacted local authorities to report what he had found. When officers from the Salinas Police Department arrived at the scene, the gravity of the situation became evident. The investigation began immediately, but identifying the victim proved to be a challenge. There was no identification or personal belongings near the body. The investigators noted that the condition of the remains suggested the incident had occurred only hours prior. With no leads at the scene, the police turned to recently filed missing persons reports, hoping for a match. At first, their search turned up nothing. There were no reports of missing young women in Salinas. This dead end forced authorities to widen their search beyond the city. Their persistence soon paid off when they uncovered a report filed by a man named Onyx in Fairfield, California, over 130 miles from where the body was discovered. The report was about his daughter, Leilani. This revelation shifted the investigation in an entirely new direction. What was Leilani doing so far from home? And how did her life end so tragically in a place she had no apparent connection to? From this moment, the case took on a life of its own. Detectives knew their first task was to confirm the identity of the victim. Establishing who she was would lead them to her inner circle, the people who could help unravel the mystery of her final hours. What started as a grim discovery in Salinas was about to expose a series of events that would shake the Fairfield community to its core. The investigators were only beginning to uncover the dark truths behind Leilani's story. Her name is Leilani Marie Beauchamp. Was born in November 2002. She was the eldest daughter of her parents, Onyx and Violeta, and from a young age, Leilani held a special place in their hearts. Her kind and compassionate nature made her the family's source of warmth and comfort. Her friends often described her as driven and strong, someone who carried an undeniable spark of ambition. At home, she was more than just a big sister. She was a second mother to her younger siblings. Her nurturing presence was a cornerstone of their lives. At school, she was the girl everyone knew. Leilani had a way of drawing people in with her genuine kindness and magnetic personality. Leilani's early years were spent in El Dorado Hills and Folsom, California. Later, her family moved to Monterey, where she graduated high school in Carmel. Though life brought many changes, she embraced every chapter. Eager to step into adulthood, she left for Sacramento to start college. While she pursued her dreams, she still longed for her close-knit friendships and familiar surroundings. Eventually, she relocated to San Jose to continue her studies, chasing her goals while adapting to her new reality. When Leilani entered college, she was brimming with excitement. It was her chance to create the life she envisioned for herself, but she also believed in balance. She didn't just want to work hard, she wanted to live fully. She made time for everything that mattered: her education, her friends, and her passions. Her ability to juggle her academic success with a vibrant social life painted a picture of someone who seemed to have it all. She was determined, full of hope, and carving her path with the grace and strength that had always defined her. But behind the bright smile and her remarkable resilience, no one could have imagined the darkness that would eventually cast a shadow over her future. In June 2021, Leilani found herself at one of the social gatherings she often enjoyed. It was during this party that she met Juan Para Peralta, a man who introduced himself as an airman stationed at Travis Air Force Base. He had recently moved to Fairfield, California to be closer to work. Juan, with his confident demeanor and well-built physique, immediately caught Leilani's attention. Their conversation flowed easily, and Leilani's curiosity grew. He seemed mature, charming, and carried the weight of someone who held a respectable job. As their interaction continued, Juan shared more about his life. He told Leilani he lived in Fairfield with 2 roommates and that he hoped they could remain friends. His warm tone and friendly demeanor were inviting, and Leilani welcomed the idea. but what felt like an innocent connection between the two did not go unnoticed. From across the room, someone's watchful eyes were fixed on them. Jessica Yesenia Quintanilla. She was Juan's girlfriend, and to her, this casual conversation was more than just small talk. It was a threat. Jessica, unable to ignore her suspicions, decided to intervene. She approached the two and joined the conversation, her presence immediately shifting the tone. Leilani, sensing the tension, chose to gracefully step away, not wanting to cause any trouble. Jessica may have kept her outward composure at the party, but Juan knew this wasn't over. He had been through this before. Jessica's jealousy was something he had grown accustomed to, and he knew the evening would end in a confrontation. As the party ended, Juan's prediction came true. Jessica confronted him, demanding to know why he had been speaking with Leilani. Her words were sharp, and her frustration was clear. She made it known that she didn't want him talking to Leilani, or any other woman for that matter. In an attempt to calm her down, Juan assured her that it had been nothing more than a fleeting conversation, but deep down, he couldn't ignore his own feelings. Something about Leilani intrigued him. The way she had looked at him during their brief exchange lingered in his mind. Jessica's reaction escalated. She told Juan she wouldn't tolerate him speaking to other women and accused him of wanting to end their relationship for Leilani. Juan, tired of Jessica's controlling behavior, pushed back. He told her he was frustrated with her possessiveness and that he wanted some space. To Jessica, his words confirmed her worst fears. She was convinced that Juan's interest in Leilani had sparked his decision to distance himself. Desperate to hold on to their relationship, she pleaded with him, insisting she loved him and didn't want them to break up. In the end, Juan gave in. Despite his growing frustrations with Jessica, their year-long relationship wasn't something he could walk away from so easily. For now, he decided to stay with her, though the tension between them was far from resolved. But what had started as a seemingly insignificant exchange at a party had already set something darker in motion. Leilani's brief encounter with Juan had unknowingly stirred emotions that would soon take a dangerous turn, pulling her into a web of jealousy, control, and heartbreak. The consequences of that night would ripple far beyond what anyone could have foreseen. Jessica believed the first confrontation had put an end to Juan's interactions with Leilani. What she didn't anticipate, however, was that Juan had grown tired of her constant attempts to control him, especially when it came to speaking with other women. Despite Jessica's expectations, Juan was already reaching a breaking point in their relationship. After their initial encounter, Juan and Leilani crossed paths again. This time, Juan took the opportunity to apologize for Jessica's behavior. He admitted that she was overly controlling and confessed that their relationship was riddled with issues. Leilani, understanding the situation, brushed off Jessica's interference as an act of jealousy. As their conversation continued, Juan shifted the topic, asking Leilani more personal questions. If she was in a relationship, what she was looking for in life, and other inquiries that left no doubt about his interest in her. Leilani didn't shy away. In fact, she found herself drawn to him even more. Seeing the struggles he faced with Jessica's overbearing nature only deepened her sympathy and attraction. What started as a simple conversation began to develop into something more. Their meetings became more frequent. Each time their bond grew stronger, and with it, Juan's frustrations with Jessica deepened. His growing closeness to Leilani added fuel to the already tense dynamic between him and Jessica. By early October 2021, things reached a boiling point. During a gathering, Jessica caught Juan speaking with Leilani again. Her anger erupted into another heated argument. This time, however, Juan had had enough. He decided to end things once and for all. That night, Juan told Jessica it was over. He made it clear there was no going back. To ensure a clean break, he blocked her on all platforms and cut off all communication. For Juan, this was the start of a new chapter. But for Jessica, it was an unbearable rejection she couldn't accept. Jessica wasn't one to give up easily. In the days that followed, she showed up at Juan's home unannounced, pleading with him to reconsider. She promised she could change, swearing that her love for him was real. Each time, Juan turned her away. Determined to win him back, Jessica resorted to new tactics. Her desperation led her to one of Juan's closest roommates, persuading him to convince Juan to meet with her one last time. She promised that if she couldn't change his mind during this meeting, she would walk away from his life for good. Reluctantly, Juan agreed, seeing it as a way to put an end to her persistence. On October 11th, 2021, the two met again. During their conversation, Juan tried to explain why he no longer wanted to be with her. He emphasized that their relationship had run its course, that they were too different, and that he didn't feel the same way anymore. But Jessica interpreted their meeting differently. To her, the mere fact that Juan had agreed to see her was a sign of reconciliation. She began talking about rules for their future, insisting he not speak to any other women, especially Leilani. Jessica's tone wasn't confrontational this time. Instead, she tried to charm him, presenting her demands with a soft and playful demeanor. But Juan was unmoved. Throughout their meeting, he never gave her any indication that he wanted to get back together. After that night, Juan stopped responding to Jessica's calls and messages altogether. For him, the chapter was closed. But Jessica wasn't ready to let go, and her determination to hold on to Juan would soon escalate to dangerous levels. On October 30th, 2021, Juan, Leilani, and Jessica found themselves at the same Halloween party. For Juan and Leilani, the atmosphere was light and lively. They spent much of the evening talking closely, their bond growing more evident. Juan reassured Leilani that his relationship with Jessica was over, and his actions made that clear. He didn't exchange a single word with his ex-girlfriend the entire night. But for Jessica, the scene was unbearable. From across the room, she watched Juan and Leilani, her jealousy bubbling into rage. In her eyes, Leilani was the reason she had lost him. Jessica's mind was clouded with resentment, unable to recognize how her own controlling behavior had driven Juan away. As the party went on, Jessica's anger became too much for her to bear. Watching the man she still loved get closer to someone else felt like a cruel torment. Unable to stay any longer, she left the party early, her frustration and jealousy consuming her. Jessica's departure went unnoticed by Juan. By the time the party began to wind down, it was nearly dawn. At around 6 a.m. on October 31st, 2021, Leilani, Juan, and one of Juan's roommates were seen leaving the event together. They walked out into the quiet early morning, their spirits still high from the evening. This would be the last time anyone saw Leilani Marie Beauchamp alive. Just hours later, her body was found downhill in Salinas, California. A tragic and haunting end to what should have been an ordinary night. The events leading to that moment were shrouded in mystery, leaving investigators to untangle the chain of decisions and emotions that had led to Leilani's untimely death. In Fairfield, California, the investigation into Leilani Marie Beauchamp's tragic death was assigned to Detective Sergeant Brian Hoskins of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. His first step was to focus on the people who had last seen Leilani alive. Knowing her connection to Juan, Detective Hoskins headed to the Cascade Lane home where Juan lived, hoping to question him. However, Juan wasn't there. The next logical move was to visit Juan's workplace at Travis Air Force Base. Upon arriving, Detective Hoskins requested Juan's presence, framing it as an inquiry into Leilani's disappearance without revealing that her body had already been discovered. What happened next was both shocking and revealing. When Juan met with Detective Hoskins, his very first words were chilling. "She's not missing. She's gone," he said, before adding that he knew where her body was. He then began recounting the events of that fateful morning, speaking quickly, as though the weight of what had happened was too much to keep inside any longer. For Detective Hoskins, Juan's willingness to cooperate was a promising start, assuring him that full transparency might allow him to serve as a witness rather than a suspect. Hoskins and the authorities at the base encouraged Juan to share everything he knew. What unfolded was a horrifying account of the final hours of Leilani Marie Beauchamp's life. Juan's story began shortly after he, Leilani, and one of his roommates left the Halloween party. They drove back to his home in Fairfield in his Cadillac. Once there, his roommate retreated to his room, leaving Juan and Leilani alone. The two spent time together in his bedroom, and their interaction became intimate. By around 8 a.m., Leilani had fallen asleep, and Juan decided to take a shower. At approximately 8:30 a.m., as Juan emerged from the bathroom, he was startled to find Jessica standing in his home. She had let herself in using a key she still had, despite their breakup weeks earlier. The confrontation was immediate and heated, anger and disbelief in his voice. Jessica remained calm, claiming she was there to retrieve the rest of her belongings. Juan, still furious, demanded she leave, but Jessica ignored him, heading straight for his bedroom. It was there that she found Leilani, awake and still lying on the bed. Jessica's composure snapped. She shouted insults at Leilani, accusing her of things neither Juan nor Leilani could fully comprehend in the chaos. She even shoved Leilani, claiming to be searching for something under the mattress. Leilani, confused and caught off guard, remained seated on the bed, trying to process what was happening. Juan once again ordered Jessica to leave, and this time she stepped out of the room. But Jessica wasn't finished. Seconds later, she stormed back into the bedroom, this time with a Glock 17 in her hand. She pointed it directly at Leilani. Panicking, Leilani moved to the side of the bed, instinctively trying to distance herself. Jessica followed, her anger intensifying. Without hesitation, she fired a single shot into the right side of Leilani's head. The room fell silent. Juan, frozen in shock, struggled to comprehend what had just happened. Before he could react, Jessica turned the gun on him, her voice cold and steady. She threatened to kill him and his family if he didn't help her cover up what she had done. From that moment, Juan was trapped. Under Jessica's orders, he wrapped Leilani's body in a blanket. They then drove to a nearby Home Depot, where Jessica instructed Juan to buy a tarp, claiming it would be used to secure the body further. Once back at the house, Juan placed Leilani's body in the trunk of his car. Jessica sat beside him, holding the gun, ensuring he complied with her every instruction. They drove from Solano County to Monterey County, ultimately disposing of the body along Corral de Tierra Road in Salinas. The entire time, Jessica maintained control. Juan drove in silence, the weight of the situation bearing down on him, as Jessica held the weapon and dictated their every move. After dumping the body, Jessica drove Juan back to Travis Air Force Base. Before leaving, she issued a final warning. If he told anyone what had happened, she would kill him and everyone he cared about. What began as a Halloween celebration had spiraled into a nightmare. Juan's account gave investigators the critical details they needed, but it also painted a chilling picture of manipulation, jealousy, and a tragic loss of life. Detective Hoskins knew there was more to uncover, but one thing was clear. Jessica's actions had shattered multiple lives, leaving a trail of devastation in their wake. Following Juan's confession, investigators issued a warrant for Jessica Quintanilla's arrest. Within hours, she was apprehended near the intersection of Railroad Avenue and Linshide Drive in Fairfield. Jessica was immediately taken into custody and brought to the police station for questioning. Meanwhile, investigators secured the necessary warrants to search Juan's residence on Cascade Lane, now considered a crime scene. During her interrogation, Jessica's account of the events significantly diverged from Juan's version. Jessica claimed she had arrived at the Cascade Lane home at approximately 8:30 a.m. on October 31st, intending to retrieve personal belongings from the second-floor bedroom. She alleged that upon entering, Juan began yelling at her, demanding to know why she was in the house. Jessica explained that one of the items she was looking for was her jade bracelet. However, at some point, the bed covers were pulled back, and Leilani was revealed lying in the bed. Jessica insisted her presence there was purely to collect her things, and she told Leilani as much. Her story took a darker turn when she discussed the firearm. Jessica stated that among her belongings in the home was a semi-automatic Glock pistol, which she claimed she and Juan had shared ownership of. She explained that Juan had asked for her help in obtaining the firearm after his Cadillac was stolen, intending to use it to search for the car. Jessica alleged that when Juan saw the gun in her possession during their argument, he attempted to take it from her. According to her, a struggle ensued, and the weapon accidentally discharged. The bullet struck Leilani in the head. When asked to elaborate on what happened next, Jessica's account became more fragmented. She claimed that after the gun discharged, she panicked and ran out of the bedroom. She sat in a car outside the house, unsure of what to do. Jessica said she had no idea what happened to Leilani afterward. However, she admitted that later that day, she and Juan drove to several locations, including a Home Depot in San Leandro and San Jose. There, they purchased items like a tarp and a shovel. Jessica stated that throughout the journey, Juan kept the Glock pistol with him. Her version of events grew even more unsettling when discussing their stops after leaving the home. Jessica claimed that at one point, they returned to her apartment in Pittsburgh. She stated that she didn't initially know Leilani's body was in the trunk of Juan's Cadillac. When the trunk was eventually opened, she said she saw a blanket and a white plastic bag but didn't realize what was inside. Jessica admitted that while at the Pittsburgh apartment, Juan washed his clothes, and she took a shower. When she emerged, she found Juan standing near the washing machine, blocking the exit and preventing her from leaving. Jessica also implicated a third person in the aftermath of Leilani's death. She described how they returned to the Cascade Lane home, where Juan met with another airman, Damian Ponders. According to Jessica, Ponders and Juan worked together to clean up the second-floor bedroom. The two men then drove to Vallejo, where they disposed of the blood-stained mattress in a dumpster. After the cleanup, Jessica and Juan returned to Pittsburgh. It was then Jessica claimed that she confided in her brother, Marco Quintanilla, about what had happened. She told him that Juan had killed someone. According to Jessica, Marco was shocked and surprised by the revelation. Jessica's narrative painted her as a panicked and reluctant participant. She attempted to distance herself from the crime, portraying Juan as the primary actor. However, the inconsistencies in her story and the evidence investigators had gathered pointed to a more active role in the tragic events. The involvement of multiple individuals, including Juan's roommate and Ponders, along with the detailed movements described by both Jessica and Juan, provided investigators with a roadmap to piece together the truth. But one thing was certain: Leilani's death was no accident, and Jessica's actions, whether out of jealousy or rage, had set into motion a series of events that ended a young woman's life far too soon. Investigators found themselves faced with two conflicting stories. Jessica Quintanilla claimed the firearm discharged accidentally during a struggle with Juan Peralta, inadvertently striking Leilani Beauchamp. In contrast, Juan's account stated that Jessica had entered the home, intentionally killed Leilani, and later forced him to assist in covering up the crime. To uncover the truth, investigators focused on two key points. First, the autopsy report, which could determine whether the gunshot was deliberate or accidental. Second, the testimony of Damian Ponders, Juan's co-worker and fellow airman, who had been involved after the crime. The first step was to question Damian Ponders. Damian revealed that he had learned about the incident directly from Juan when Juan arrived at Travis Air Force Base. According to Damian, Juan confessed to what had happened and asked him to accompany him to the police. However, before they could act, Detective Brian Hoskins was already at the base to confront Juan. Although Damian's testimony was useful, it wasn't without potential vulnerabilities. A skilled defense attorney could argue that Damian had a motive to lie in order to distance himself from any involvement. However, investigators found no fingerprints or physical evidence linking Damian to the bedroom where the crime took place, which strengthened the credibility of his account. This testimony marked a significant turning point. Jessica was formally charged and held without bail. Meanwhile, the Air Force discharged Juan Peralta under less than honorable conditions. While this decision cost Juan his military career, it was a strategic move by prosecutors to ensure that Juan could be treated as a civilian under U.S. law. This allowed him to receive potential immunity for his cooperation in the case. Investigators then turned their attention to Jessica's brother, Juan Carlos Martinez Jr. Juan Carlos was arrested after investigators found evidence linking him to the crime. He admitted to receiving a message from Jessica on the day of the incident in which she claimed that Juan had killed someone. However, he insisted he thought she was joking at the time. A search of Juan Carlos's home revealed damning evidence. Investigators discovered burned items belonging to Leilani, suggesting an attempt to destroy evidence. Further inquiries revealed that Juan Carlos had been aware of the crime and had assisted Jessica in disposing of evidence, though his precise level of involvement remained under scrutiny. These revelations added another layer to the case. While Jessica had tried to portray herself as a bystander caught in an unfortunate series of events, the evidence painted a far more calculated picture. Her brother's actions, along with the burned belongings, suggested a coordinated effort to hide the truth. As the investigation progressed, the autopsy report and digital evidence tracking Jessica and Juan's movements would become crucial in solidifying the timeline and unraveling the motives behind Leilani's tragic death. On September 23, 2024, the trial of Jessica Yesenia Quintanilla and her brother, Juan Carlos Martinez Jr., began, marking the culmination of a 3-year investigation into the tragic death of Leilani Marie Beauchamp. Both faced serious charges. Jessica Yesenia, first-degree murder for her direct role in Leilani's death. Use of a firearm in the commission of a felony for the method of the crime. Juan Carlos Martinez Jr., accessory to murder for assisting in concealing the crime. Tampering with evidence for attempting to destroy key pieces of evidence by burning items belonging to Leilani. During the trial, Juan Carlos pleaded guilty to the charges against him, while Jessica maintained her innocence and pleaded not guilty. The prosecutors in court built their case on several points. 1. The autopsy report presented critical findings. The bullet entered the right side of Leilani's head and exited through the back of her head on the same side. The trajectory of the bullet was angled front to back in a downward direction, consistent with an intentional and controlled shot rather than a stray or accidental discharge. Soot was discovered near the entry wound, indicating the gunshot came from close range, approximately 1 foot away. This evidence strongly contradicted Jessica's claim that the firearm discharged accidentally during a struggle. Second testimony from investigators and witnesses detectives provided detailed accounts of their investigation, corroborating the timeline and motive. Damian Ponders, Juan Peralta's co-worker, testified again, confirming Juan's initial confession and the events that unfolded after the crime. 3. Jessica's firearm purchase. Prosecutors presented records of conversations Jessica had with others while purchasing the Glock pistol used in the crime. These conversations revealed that the firearm was intended for her personal use and made no mention of Juan. This contradicted Jessica's claim that the gun was shared or obtained to help Juan locate his stolen car. 4. Jessica's attempts to undermine Juan. Prosecutors also introduced evidence of Jessica sending letters from jail, accusing Juan of selling marijuana in 2021. Investigators proved these allegations were false in an attempt to discredit him, further highlighting Jessica's manipulative behavior. However, Jessica's legal team focused on casting doubt over the prosecution's case, challenging the autopsy report. They questioned the interpretation of the bullet trajectory, arguing it could still support Jessica's claim of an accidental discharge. A reenactment of the alleged struggle was performed in court to illustrate their version of events. Casting doubt on Damian Ponders' testimony, the defense suggested Damian's statements were self-serving, as implicating Jessica protected him from legal repercussions. Despite these efforts, the weight of the evidence against Jessica remained overwhelming. In January 2025, the jury reached a unanimous decision. Jessica Yesenia Quintanilla was found guilty of first-degree murder and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. She was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. Juan Carlos Martinez Jr. pleaded guilty to accessory to murder and tampering with evidence. He received a 15-year prison sentence. Following the verdict, Leilani Marie Beauchamp's family expressed relief that justice had been served after years of waiting. In a heartfelt statement, they said, "Leilani was truly a blessing to us and her beloved friends." Leilani shared a very close relationship with her younger brother and sister who, after she ventured out to college, maintained daily communication with them. We will miss her smile, her laugh, her caring demeanor, her strong will, her passion for life, and the love she brought to our family. We love you, Leilani. Their words encapsulated the loss of a bright, caring young woman whose life was tragically cut short. Leilani's case remains a sobering reminder of how jealousy, control, and unresolved emotions can spiral into devastating violence. While justice has been served, the pain of her absence will forever linger with those who loved her. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.